What's up, guys? I'm here with my guide on how to read, use, and analyze logs to better your play in World of Warcraft and find ways to improve by comparing yourself against other players. Now, I'm going to start by going over how to navigate these sites and just kind of the different pages that there are to explore. So if you already know how those work or you've seen those and you know how to browse around, then you can go ahead and click on the time link to look at how to analyze your logs and what to look for, and then an actual example of me analyzing my own logs. So I'll go ahead and start by going through the site and what there is. So if you go to www.warcraftlogs.com, you'll find this page. And on the top right, you can make an account if you don't have one already. I already have one, and it allows you to apply to guilds, connect to your Battle.net account, things like that. And click on maybe one of the guilds that you are in on Warcraft Logs, and click on one of their raid logs, so it's kind of easier browsing. It will take you to this page, and you can click on a boss perhaps, and it'll take you to the actual log page. Now we'll get into that in just a little bit. You can also click on the calendar icon on any of these, and it'll give you an icon, or just, excuse me, a calendar showing all the different logs that are available to look at and check out. And you can click on other stuff here too. I don't normally look at it too often, but it is there. Also, if you're just interested in seeing what other people are doing, like rank-wise, you can click on this menu little button up here in the top left and pick your raid. You can look at an overview by clicking at all reports on each raid, or you can just click on a boss. So in this case, maybe I'll just click on Croesus, check it out, and you get to this ranking page, and this will show you currently all damage rankings for this boss, Croesus, on Mythic, in all regions, by all classes, and for all item levels. So you can just see the top DPS on this fight so far. And then you can scroll up and down. You can pick, again, damage or healing, or maybe like player damage to bosses, stuff like that. You can find rankings for just any boss, of course, any difficulty, Mythic through LFR. For any region, if you want to separate it by region, you can pick your class, your spec, and for example, that'll show you, it'll just pick, in this case, all Beast Mastery Hunters only. And then you can choose the item level bracket. Now it does go from left to right if you're having trouble finding it, so just kind of follow it left to right, next row, left to right. And you can check out stuff. It does show you their talents, as well as what trinkets they're using, and what legendaries they happen to have for that pool. It does also, just one thing to note, it gives the base item level of the trinkets, so even if someone's trinket says like it's a green or it's a blue, like 820, it's probably not actually that level, it's just that's what they show here. So once you're ready to look up your own log, you can again either go to one of your logs on the right hand side here if you have an account and a guild attached to it, or you can go to the search bar here and type in your toon name, your guild name, realm name, whatever. In this case, I'll be looking at my paladin. And as you type, you'll see it kind of gives you suggestions. Mine is on US, and they'll show you all the other ones that have the same name. So click on that, and it gives you this very brief summary screen. Now here you just see overall deeps or heals. Again, you can change that here, damage or healing, and so on. Whatever bosses, item level brackets that you've done it in. And this last option I don't really play with too much, but you can read that if you like. And then you can choose the raid on the top right here. Difficulty and size, so again, heroic, normal, LFR, mythic, anything you've killed it on and been logged on will be here, and then whatever specs you have done it on. Now, you can see kind of the summary here. You can click on a boss here, or you can click on a boss through here. It'll give you the same page, and it's some cool statistics and just all your recorded kills. And so I'll go ahead and click on this. This is the more recent kill I've had on Cursus, on Heroic, on my Paladin, and this will take you to this page. Now, you'll notice there are a bunch of tabs up here on the top right. These are kind of the overall sections. In the Analyze section, normally you'll be on Summary to start. So if you get someone to link you their logs, typically they'll end up here, or maybe like on a specific page like damage done or healing. But on the summary page, it just gives you a brief summary, as it might suggest. And you can see the raid composition, what tanks you were using, what DPS, healers, damage, healing, damage taken, by ability, and deaths. So if you had any deaths during the fight, you can click on a person, or you can click on select the person here, and it'll give you some cool statistics like their stats, their talents, their artifact level, what points they have stuff in, and their gear. And the gear is where you could find what relics they're using as well in their artifact. And then, of course, damage, healing, damage taken, and any deaths they may have had. Now, if you go to damage done, you'll see, of course, something you might see in like recount or scatter or details. And they just have the additional bit about rankings. So on the left side is like your rankings compared to other people in your spec, but it doesn't matter what item level. So whether they're 900 or 850 or something, this includes all of those. And on the right hand side over here, on the eye level percentage, it's comparing you again against your own spec, but against those who are within a couple item levels of you. They have brackets that they've preset, so they're pretty small, and this is generally more interesting to people, but they also, of course, have DPS and other such things. If you click on a person, it will pull up their actual damage split. So the abilities, how many casts, you can mouse over for how many crits and hits, things like that. So basically the things you could find in like Recount or SCADA, you could find here. If you mouse over their icon, their class spec icon, you can see their talents as well, in case you're looking for those. And that's pretty much these pages, so damage done, damage taken, healing, all the same. Buffs and debuffs are pretty cool, and of course you can also choose different things, different options over here from who is it from, what sources, what abilities. You can choose, is it a buff or debuff gained by one of us, or cast by one of us. So normally buffs, you might be looking at buff uptime. So if you click on a person or select a person up here, you might say, oh, you know, what was my uptime on, oh, I don't know, this retribution buff or something. Whatever you might pick. And on debuffs, you might be interested in what debuffs did I put on. So instead of looking at debuffs gained by the friendly person, you might want to look at the ones cast by you instead. Maybe I want to see my judgment uptime or something. So you can mess around with those options to find what you like. Deaths and interrupts, pretty simple. Now, deaths, just a note, it will tell you what time they died, what killed them, actually, and then what the last 3 hits they took, and then how long, so over how many seconds did they die. And then just cool like damage taken versus healing received comparison, so that you can see at a glance, were they just not healed enough, did they just get one shot, and you can click on it too to get more details about it. The little graph will show you how much health they had at each point, so you can see where they were. And here you just get the whole combat log-ish chart that you can check out and see how much damage they take. The overkill, any absorbs they might have had will be A for absorb, things like that. Interrupts, you can see who interrupted, how many times, how many got through, things like that. Dispels, same thing as interrupts but for dispels. And then resources, you can look at your hit points, your HP. You can look at combo points, runes, like anyone's resource. And then casts is pretty interesting. When you're in this overview, it's not that useful, but if you click on somebody in particular, you can actually see when they cast different spells and what spells they were casting. You can turn them on and off, as you can see, so you can toggle them on and off, and you can just see every single spell that the person cast during the duration of the fight. And this is really useful in analyzing because it will allow you to see what other people cast, as you can see specific rotations at certain times, and you can, of course, mess around with these options here, but generally I leave it cast by spell. And this is a very, very, very cool page that you'll be able to mess around with. Now, if you want to see something more specifically, like a certain period of time, you can click and drag over a little period of time, and it will show you the abilities for just that little portion of time. If you need to get back, then just press backspace, or whatever you use to go back in your browser. But it will allow you to kind of check out what people are doing more specifically and with less visual clutter. So that's pretty much it for the Analyze section, this whole tab up here. It's a very, very useful tab. I'll briefly go over the others as well, though. Compare tab is something we will be using to find someone else's logs to compare to. You can do it manually through the menu, like up here, and finding somebody that you think is appropriate to compare to. You can compare 2 players in the report if there's someone in your guild or that particular fight that you wanted to look at. Or, and this is the one I generally recommend, you can use this last little parse here, this option, and it lets you set parameters for your search. So it allows you to set criteria. So you can pick like yourself, for example, do like fight length, make sure it's close fight length, same raid size or close to, same item level or close to, and then how old the report is. So and then you can select different metrics, or you can just leave it on default. And then you'd be able to find a bunch of stuff that way, and it's really cool because you get to set your own criteria beforehand. In the problems, this is really more for raid leading or discovering like what kind of issues you had on the fights, perhaps potion use, strategic things like how many ads spawned, or how much damage did you guys take from this ability, things like that. Don't use it too much these days, but it is there if you want to mess around with it. Rankings, briefly, again, it's just like it's ranking you against other players of your class, spec, and perhaps item level. Again, left side, it's all of your spec, so against all of them regardless of their item level. And on the right hand side is within your small item level bracket, which you can see right next to it. And they color coded as well. This can just let you know, are you doing well perhaps, or are you not doing well? And there's more to consider than just the straight number here, just the simple number, but it's a pretty simple look at that, at your rankings versus other people. And you can do damage or healing, and there's also a boss damage option that I don't really look at very often. And then replay, pretty simple. This option allows you to actually watch the fight happen. You can watch people move. As you can see, you can watch people's health, debuffs. If you click on one, you can see their cast, the damage, the boss health, and where they're moving, stuff like that. So it can be really cool to verify if things are happening like they should be, but not really the focus of today's guide. Now, along with Warcraft Logs, and that was most of what I use on Warcraft Logs, what you can browse around with, there's also another site I like to combine this with, so they kind of work together, called Checkmywow. And it's a very brief and simple way to kind of check the major parts of your rotation or of your play. Now, it's not perfect, of course, and they're not done with every spec, but it can give you a very easy overview, an easy way to see, oh, maybe I should work on this first. So kind of nice, generic thing. Now, to use a log URL, so whether you're doing a manual comparison here, or whether you're going on checkmywow.com, you'll be using this part of the URL. So after the reports / this part, and then anything after the # or hashtag is not part of it. So this part, you'll copy that. So whether you right click copy or Control C, and then here you can right click again, paste, or you can Control V, and then click import. And it will generally takes a little time. I've already imported this particular log, so it was instant. But if it's a long key, it might take a little bit. It'll bring up a menu like this. You can see all the fights. You can tell process all my kills or all my fights. And you can also just pick specific bosses. And you have to make sure you pick the correct character as well. So in this case, I want to pick me. You can view the report. Now, normally it'll have to process first, and then it'll eventually turn to this green button that says View Report. Click on that, and you get just 4 simple pages you can look at. They're pretty self-explanatory as to what they tell you. They tell you, you should be spending Holy Power when Judgment is active only, or something for Pallies. I won't go into it too much right now because it's different for every spec, and also because you can kind of just read it yourself. But I will get into that when we go into analyzing and using these. So here you can get cast efficiency, resource management, cooldown usage, and a lot of these things you can actually click and see specifics. So even like cast efficiency, you can click on a spell and it'll load some data for you. So pretty cool, nifty little site. You can use it to just get an idea of what's going on. Now do note that some of these specs are not done, and they will let you know if they're not. So for example, this Frost Death Knight, if you look at this, they'll say, hey, we're not quite confident in this yet, so keep that in mind as you look at it. But you can still kind of use it and compare it to other people's. So I will go ahead and show you guys now how to analyze logs, how to use these tools, and I'll be using this log as an example. So the first thing you want to do, I would recommend, is actually go to checkmywow.com first. And you will go ahead and of course put in that ID. So again, that's here after the reports part and before the # or hashtag sign. That part is what you want to copy. So Control C or right click copy, whichever you prefer. And then either right click paste or Control V. And then click import. And at this point you find the fight that you want and yourself, and it will load for a little bit. Of course this has already been loaded. So maybe quicker here. And start looking at this stuff. See what they say. So of course this will change by spec, by whatever they have. But I'll just show you the Rep Pally one. as an example. So here I look at spend power while holy power while judgment's active, and it looks like I did a pretty good job. So I missed one, so I'll just try to improve on that next time, but did a good job. Awesome. So keep an eye on it, but pretty good for now. Judgment uptime doesn't look so good, 77%. I happen to think and perhaps know that it's not probably the biggest deal, but if you're not sure, if you say, maybe I should try that, you can also check by taking somebody else's log and putting that in here, someone who did really well. And if their judgment uptime is also kind of similar to yours, where it's like a bit lower than it might look like it should be, then you know I don't have to worry about this too much. So that's something I'll keep in the back of my mind, though. Maybe I should judgment more. We'll see. Then we go to cast efficiency. Check this out. You know, I did pretty well overall, so I did cast a lot of these spells as much as I could, but I did miss one Wake of Ashes, so maybe I want to know more about it. Click on it, and I'll consider I need to make sure I do, get more Wake of Ashes out then. And this will actually show you the time of different events. When did they come off cooldown? How long did I wait to cast it? So the first time, basically off cooldown. Came off cooldown, boom, cast it. Awesome. Next time, I waited 3 seconds. That's kind of long. Not the end of the world. This one's good, just less than a second. And then I waited 5 seconds, almost 6 seconds for this one. So that's really long. I don't like that. Did something happen? Maybe, maybe not. I have to check later. But just know this took a long time to cast. This one's good again. Only 30 seconds, just over 30. This one, almost 3 seconds, so a little bad. This one's almost 7 seconds. So I waited a long freaking time to get this Wake of Ashes off. And then the last one here, I did wait a little bit again. So altogether, that added up, that dead time added up to a full cast that they believe I should have been able to get. So keep an eye on that. Prepare more for Wake of Ashes so that I can use it as much as possible. Now check out the resource management. They're looking at holy power that you gained. Did you waste any? Like, did you overcap? You were already at 5 or 4 and you tried to gain more than 5. It looks like I didn't waste any. Awesome. If I did, I would definitely look at this and try to improve. And then holy power usage, just how much holy power or damage per holy power, that each ability got is not super relevant to me right now, but maybe if you weren't sure, should I use Templar's Verdict here or should I use Divine Storm? You could check this out, but it's a pretty simple decision normally, but you can look at that. And I'll check out my cooldown usage. So here, for Palets, they want to know, or just in general, did you line up your stuff, your pots, your heroism, your cooldowns together? And it looks like I did line them up pretty well, of course, at the beginning of the fight. Pretty easy, of course I did. Here in the mid fight, I did pot along with my cooldowns. And then here I didn't have pot, of course, because, you can't. But I did a pretty good job of lining them up, looks like. And then you can see the Crusade damage. So the damage I did during this cooldown each time. First time was really big. Second time a little smaller. And then the third time a little bit smaller. And I can probably rationalize that the first time it was huge because pots plus heroism plus the cooldown. There's a lot of damage. Second time I only had pot with my cooldowns, and third time I didn't have either the pot or the heroism. But maybe if you were to look at your logs, you might notice something like, hey, I did less damage here than my other cooldown, but I didn't have anything change. Like there wasn't a pot in one of those, or there wasn't heroism in one of those. Consider that, check it out. It can be useful. You can also click to see what's actually there, how many hits from different spells, and so on. And then holy power spent during Crusade. This is the last metric that they have for cooldown usage for the ret spec. And so just how much holy power did I spend? So here I spent 51 the first time, again, probably because of heroism, higher haste, I get to spend more. The other two I missed by 3, so I got 3 more holy power spent this second time. So I probably missed one spell, so one Templar's Verdict or one Divine Storm. Maybe I'll work on that in the last bit. Maybe it was a bit shorter if you check the time. No, it was 35 seconds, so I got the full thing off. I just missed one. Perhaps I was slow, out of range, but I'll work on that. Now, once you have a basic idea there, you have a couple ideas you can try that out. But if you want to know more, like more details, then go ahead and go back to Warcraft Logs and use the compare tool. Now, in the compare tool, you can do stuff manually, as I briefly mentioned, I believe. And for that, you'll use the same URL. You'll find someone, and you have to do it manually. So go to Warcraft Logs, click on the menu, find the rankings, and find somebody who kind of matches your log. If not, then use this third option, which is what I really recommend, and simply select yourself. Pick whatever criteria you like. So I like to leave them on default. Small item level difference, so within 2. Raid size difference to 2. 10-second fight, or 10 seconds within 10 seconds of your fight timer. So it's a similar length fight. And then the metric, I just leave on default typically. So click search, and it will pull up a bunch of people for you to compare to. And it's really, really cool. And so what you want to look at is, 1, you can look at their talents, what they picked. 2, you can look at their trinkets. But most importantly, I really like to look at their legendaries. Make sure that they have similar legendaries to you. And this just means if they're really good legendaries, like your top legendaries that can change your rotation or change how the numbers look in terms of like how much damage you got from different abilities, those are the ones you want to have the same of. If they have legendaries or you have legendaries that don't apply to your DPS, your healing, whatever, directly, then you want to find someone who has equally irrelevant or useless legendaries that are just stat sticks, essentially, in terms of performance. So, in this case, I happen to have the ring and the back, so I will look for someone with the ring and the back to make fair comparisons. Now, this first guy I could choose, but his report's in Russian, and I can't read Russian, so I'm going to look for someone else. I notice down here at number 5 on this list, there's someone who has the same legendaries, so I'll check it out. Click on this, and it pulls me here, so I get to compare immediately if I like. And if you want to check talents, if you just didn't happen to look at them when you picked them, you can go to summary and see them here. The different stats, of course. You can compare your kind of gear stats, the actual gear, your artifact weapon, all that stuff. Side by side comparison. Really, really useful tool here. So I notice he has a different talent than I do, so I'll keep that in mind. Maybe this is better. Maybe I'll try his build later. And you can check out other stuff too. Now we go to damage done. And what you can look at here typically is 1, where did his DPS spike or not? And how far did it spike to? And also different like casts how many times they cast different things, how much damage they got out of those casts, how many crits they got, stuff like that. So in this case, maybe I'll notice when did I pop Crusade? Well, I know I popped it at the start. We probably both did. So we're about the same there. And I do a little bit better, or he does a little bit better here. Blah blah blah. And then here I notice I pop my cooldown. So I do a lot more damage here, and then I know he pops his a bit later, and I'll show you where I got this in the cast section, but I notice he spikes up a lot here, and not only does he pop his cooldown here, but you notice he goes a lot higher than I do here, so maybe he made better use, maybe a better decision here, something like that. I'll look into that a little bit later, but he spikes a lot bigger here, so consider that, and then you can see the rest of it's pretty similar. He does do a little bit more damage at the end here. So then I'll check out stuff. You can say, well, how many casts did I do versus him on, say, Templar's Verdict? Well, I had more casts, so I did a bit more damage. Given my talent setup, that makes sense because I generate more holy power, thus more Templar's Verdicts. And this is where when you start to analyze this stuff, this is where knowledge of the class and spec really comes in. You really need to know when things are good to use or not, or when things are relevant. So knowing that, he took Zeal, so I'm going to have more Templar's Verdicts, or I should, will help you know that, okay, that's why I have so many more casts than he does. Then we look at Crusader Strike. Well, I have Crusader Strike because I didn't take Zeal, and he has Zeal because he took the talent. Notice I got more casts off, but he did a lot more damage with his. So maybe I'll think, maybe I should try that out next time. Try, this different talent. And then we'll look at Bladed Justice here, and he got more casts, so 5 more casts, and he did a lot more damage than I did. Now, I happen to know that Bladed Wrath can cause some RNG, some little luck of the draw, with how many Bladed Justices you can use. But maybe I didn't cast Bladed Justice on cooldown like I should have, or close to. But remember, I went through Checkmywow already, and I noticed that they think I didn't miss any Bladed Justices that I could have had, so most likely it's just RNG. He got more resets on his than I did. As for the damage difference, with 5 extra casts, maybe I'll check out how many crits he got. He had a 63% crit rate on that ability, and I had about a 52%, so that might account for some of the difference in that damage, other than the 5 extra casts. Then we'll check out maybe like Wake of Ashes. I got 11 off, and he got 9, so did pretty good there, so keep working on that, of course. As we know, I did miss 1, according to them. And then maybe Judgment, we'll see. I got 33 casts, and he also got 33 casts. So we did about the same there. Probably a good job there. He did do more damage with his, and we'll check. Maybe he got more crits. I got 30% crit on my judgments, and he had about 61% crit. So that probably accounts for a lot of the damage differential there. So you kind of look through these, see the different statistics basically of between you and the person, and make some conclusions based on what you see. Now, we can also, of course, check out things like buff uptimes, excuse me, if you wanted to, like how much uptime did I have on, oh, I don't know, the cloak. I had 82% uptime, his cloak had 76% uptime, so, he did pretty well there, perhaps. Or you could look up debuff timers, and you can see, again, if I want to see, like, judgment or things that I've cast, then you have to do cast by friendly. And, we both have the same amount of judgments, as we saw, or it looks like he has one more here, interestingly enough. But I have about the same time. We're about the same judgment uptime on the debuff. So it looks like this bit that we were thinking about earlier isn't super important, probably. You want to have enough uptime, but not 100%. And then finally, maybe I'll check out the casts. So what did we cast? You can see how many casts, and we already saw some of that in damage done, but you can actually see when he cast stuff. And so maybe I want to check out that Crusade. You remember over here, I noticed he spiked really hard, and I think he popped his cooldown later than I did. So let's see. When did he Crusade? You assume he did it at the start, because you could check the buffs, and you would see that indeed he does have Crusade at the very beginning. If you click on his, he did have Crusade there. So you just popped it before the fight started, most likely, a little bit early, so that the logs didn't pick that up. But notice that he pops at the beginning, and we both do, or around the beginning. But he waits 35 seconds or so, extra seconds, to pop it again. Why is that? Maybe there was something going on mechanically that he didn't want to have his cooldown ruined or interrupted. Things that come to mind on this particular fight, maybe there was a slam that could break the bridge, forcing you to run away. Maybe there was burning pitch coming up really soon, so that you would have to run to soak those during your crusade. So I didn't wait, he did wait. And remember, if we look at the damage done, he did a heck of a lot more damage during his second burst than I did. So maybe I'll consider that next time. Maybe I should wait to pop my crusade then. And then, when did he pop it again? At this time, 4.5 minutes or so. And so you can see he basically didn't wait at all. So as soon as I'm cooldown, boom, used it. And I tried to do that too. 4:16. So I had a little bit of downtime, but maybe next time I'll try to hold off like he did, and maybe it'll work better. Other things I could do, I could check out his opener or any burst rotation. So maybe I'll look at the first 30 seconds or so. And I'll look at all of his abilities, so all the ones that have his name attached to it, and they are in parentheses next to the name of the ability, and just see what he was up to. So, again, he Crusaded at the start. They don't see it here, though. And then he Judgment, Blade of Justice, Templar's Verdict, Wake of Ashes, Templar's Verdict. So you can just see every ability cast, when he cast it, the sequence, and this can just essentially it tells you somebody's opener, their opening rotation, or maybe I want to go back and look at just the burst rotation. So when did he pop his cooldown again? About 2 minutes and 35 seconds. So maybe I'll look at that, maybe from like 2:30 up to a little bit more. I don't know. So I think I actually missed it, so I'll go back real quick. Let's get rid of some of this stuff so I can see it better. And I want to know when he Crusaded, so from about here to, I don't know, here. So what were his abilities? So again, I'm going to click on all of his abilities to see what he was doing. Maybe not Divine Sleep, but if you wanted to. Let's see where he potted. And so you see, so he cast Zeal, this is before the cooldown, and this is his trinket. So you see is actually right on top of Templar's Verdict and on Crusade, and probably right on top of Potion as well. Or he pots actually right after. So pops his cooldowns, pops pot, and then Templar's Verdict, Blade of Justice, Templar's Verdict. And you just see again all of his casts. I believe I'm actually missing Judgment here. There we go. And you can just see all of his casts, what he does during his burst rotation. And maybe I'll notice, is it different than what I do? And you can look at your own cast during this time. So you take away his, make note of what he cast in what order, and then look at your own. And now, of course, This is a little different because I'm not in my burst at this point, but you could do the same thing. So go back, look at when I crusaded, so about here, about the same thing here, and see what I cast during my second burst. So I'll activate all of my abilities or toggle them on, and then you can see. So let's see, here is where I pop my cooldowns, my trinket, which again is over my crusade, and then I went ahead and Templar's Verdict, Blade of Justice, Templar's Verdict, Wake of Ashes, Templar's Verdict, and just so on. And you could notice any discrepancies. So maybe he does something different. Maybe I do something different. You can see what happens. So that's pretty much how I would analyze or help someone analyze their logs, look to improve by viewing this kind of data. Hopefully it was helpful for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, feel free to hit the video with a like. If you want to see when I post new content or new videos like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel so you know when that comes out. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those in the comment section. Or you can catch me on my stream at Twitch when I'm streaming and drop by, ask questions, say hi, whatever you like. And I hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for watching. Cheers.